Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with Unkillable, works that never fail. And you nailed another one. It's Bizet's Carmen. I can't even begin to describe just how amazing Carmen is. How amazing it is that in this category of works that never fail, we could even include an opera. Because operas are so complicated. There's so much that can go wrong. And there's so much involved in people's personal preferences about individual singers. And this opera has requires three rather amazing singers, number one. And number two, as the commentator pointed out when he brought this up, we don't even have one single unified conception of what Carmen is. There are versions with recitative and versions without recitative. There's versions with the version with dialogue. There's subversions. There's all kinds of issues about how the thing gets put together, given the state in which Bizet left it. But one thing we do know, we know what all of the arias and group numbers are and the order in which they're supposed to be sung. And Carmen survives. Carmen survives because, quite simply, it has the tunes. It just has the tunes. You cannot get past the fact that whether you can sing it or you can't sing it, or whether it's staged properly or done in concert, or whether you're doing just a suite or you're doing the whole opera, it never fails because of the tunes. And boy, what an amazing bunch of tunes it has. It's just really unbelievable. Back in the day when it was fresh, it was controversial. It was very, very controversial. And it was the first on-stage murder in all of opera and whatnot. And it was considered shockingly bad taste. And it dealt with working class type characters. And it was seamy and unabashedly sexual. And people had all kinds of problems with it. And they had those problems because they didn't know the tunes. They knew the story. They knew the dialogue. The first time they heard it, maybe it took a little time to sink in because it was, after all, modern music, right? It was modern music. But after a few performances, really rather quickly, those tunes sunk in. And from then on, it was never a question. Could you imagine something like, Götterdämmerung never being able to fail, being unkillable? Of course not. You could kill a Wagner opera with just a smidge of wrongosity. After all, look at Tristan and Isolde. People complain about Brangana's warning choruses or King Mark's soliloquy, or, anything can go wrong, and it just kills it, knocks the crap out of it. It's gone. And really, and that's really all the more amazing because it's an opera that actually gets by on the symphonic flow of the music, irrespective of what the singers are doing. But my God, let one of those singers be weak and it's doomed. Carmen, they could come in and mime. It would hardly matter. Absolutely unbelievable. I think I've told this story, my Revenge of Carmen story, where I was playing percussion in a performance of Carmen where, the Carmen, the singer, was one of those, she had attitude, let's put it that way. She was a second-rate mezzo-soprano in a community opera setting who had the attitude of an international diva. This was her big chance, and I don't blame her. It was her big starring role. I get it. She wanted to do this all her life. She wanted everything to be perfect. She was driving us crazy. And I was tasked with playing the castanets in her seduction scene with Don Jose. She's going, la, 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 and it's going clickety, clickety, click, 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 like that. And I was doing that. And I said to her, she said, make sure you follow me. Make sure you get it right. I said to her, play your own goddamn castanets if you want it right. But no, I had to do it. And so, of course, needless to say, I gave a few extra clicks when she wasn't clicking, and I got a look like daggers. I didn't want it to look stupid. I didn't want her to look like she didn't know what she was doing, but I did want her to know that I knew that I wasn't going to take any crap from her. And after that, it went fine. All the performances were fine. But seeing Carmen in the pit from the orchestra, just being able to listen to it, from within the orchestra, and then you get up and you play and do your thing, it really tells you something about just what an amazing piece of music it is. And it's wonderful if you're playing percussion, because actually the percussion parts, aside from the clackety little castanets, there's really no percussion until the end of each act for the big ensembles. That's when I played. I was playing cymbals and bass drum. And, it was a cheap production. I was playing both of them, like this. And you don't have to do very much until the end of each act. So you get to sit like this and you watch the whole thing happen. You watch it on stage, you listen to it. Oh my God, what a bunch of tunes. One after another, after another, after another. Even like the throwaway tunes, like Michaela's aria, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's more beautiful separately than it is within the context of the opera, because in the context of the opera, it has so much competition, and she's not really an important character. She's just sweet and nice. She doesn't have the texture of the other characters. So, but that in itself it's a masterpiece, that little aria, and it's a throwaway in the context of the whole opera. It really is. So you're right. You are absolutely right. Carmen can survive horrible singing. You don't really like it to. You may not want to listen to it when the singing is bad, but on stage, it is absolutely unkillable. There's no question about that. On recordings, there is the usual back and forth backstabbing insanity that is the world of opera, and people screeching and yelling and carrying on about, the title role and how it should be interpreted, and whether Victoria de Los Angeles was too demure and Marilyn Horne was too, what can I say, too earthy. Maybe that's the word. I'll never forget that the Penguin review of the Leontine Price and Herbert von Karajan Carmen, where, well, if you want a Carmen who's a sexual threat, you might like this one. It's like, yeah, well, yes, Carmen is a sexual threat. It's not something that, the Penguin people were willing to put up with, but it really is just about unkillable opera. And it's one that singers will always love to do, because it's an unkillable role. It's a fascinating role. She's a femme fatale. Femme fatales are, those are the ones you want. Those are the plum choices. It's a femme fatale who's a mezzo. So if you're an over-the-hill soprano, Carmen might be just the ticket. It was for Maria Callas, for example. So yeah, unkillable. Definitely, and probably one of the very, very few, I can think of maybe one or two others, but one of the very few unkillable operas out there. You just can't, it's the tunes, like I said. What can I tell you? Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.